top cards that you're gonna want to have for Enneacraft. Now make sure you guys smash the living crap out of that morphing jar button so you guys don't miss out on more content. Now I gotta give morphing jar some credit here, man. I think that this is one of the funniest ways that you can actually play this deck right now because it gives you, well, protection from getting drawn lockbird. One of the biggest things that we are very scared of while playing Morphing Jar FTK is, you know, just getting your stuff blown up, negated, you know, having an unfun time with it. But they basically fixed all of those problems when they gave us a negate on our turn to ensure that we could successfully basically FTK the opponent. Now, do I think that, you know, Morphing Jar FTK is a consistent monster at this point? No. But what I do think is this is a new style of engine that you can pick up and you can play and you can achieve some of the funniest results that you have had. Having an FTK deck running around is hilarious, man. Then we have the Kujikiri Curse. Now, this just simply lets you send a level 9 monster from your hand or face on the field to the graveyard to draw 2 cards. Now, you can only activate 1 Kujikiri Curse per turn. Now, you're basically playing draw cards. And so this reminds anybody of the Sacred Sword of the 7 stars, basically, because it is essentially that exact same thing. You're using this as a method to clear out some of the level 9s, but the problem is the level 9s are kind of one of the most important parts of the strategy of the deck. You know, they provide you, well, at least the whale provides the negate. You know, you do have some interruptions along the way. I do think that there is something to be said if you were to want to include a copy or 2 of this into the deck. 1 to 2 is not going to hurt the deck build at all. But if you are planning on bulking this down with like 2 to 3 of these, then you are going to run into the inconsistency nightmares that we are all too used to having. Mimighoul Maker. Now this is where the value comes in because it lets you reveal any 2 flip monsters and then you get the ability to get them set up and do your thing. Now your trade-off with this, you have to remember, in order to maximize what you're doing with the Enneacraft all have to special summon face down. So you're not going to get the ability to build this into any other engines, but Maker gives you straight off the bat the ability to beam out 2 flips. And you know what? I'm fine with that because that's the level of stuff that I need to be seeing in order to make this deck look, you know, somewhat enticing. Also, to be fair, I mean, Mimighoul's abilities to basically kind of spam up some of the field and get the ability to at least, you know, spam out some monsters, I think is a very welcome thing that a lot of people really wanted to see. And, you know, spamming capabilities are good. Next up is Fossil Dyna Pachycephalo. Now, the reason for even wanting to bat an eye at Fossil Dyna is because Fossil Dyna has the ability to basically flip and board nuke the opponent. We talk a lot about needing options to clear boards or be able to just find a way to clear up the game and get things, you know, back to your turn. We live in a society right now where, you know, bad things can happen, but having that little board nuke option that you can just access off of this, especially, you know, if you book a Moon Your Monster and you're like, oh no, like I blew up my own stuff. It can be a little bit dangerous, but let's call it what it is. I mean, as soon as you establish one of those big monsters, your opponent's going to have to find a way to deal with it. And if they can't, you know, guess what? You normal summon the Fossil Dyna, now your opponent has to 100% find a method to deal with it. And, okay, seems pretty good. Bookataya. Now, this one's pretty much a no-brainer at this point. You're basically building an archetype based on flip effects. And especially if you're playing the empty jar version of the deck, which you're like, oh, hey, you know, we can turbo through, do all of this, you know, cool, crazy stuff. Yeah, for sure. But at the same time, you need to know, hey, you know, if we're cycling through these options, you know, is Bookataya going to be good? I think so. I think especially, obviously, if you're playing the Morphing Jar version of the deck, you need to have these already built into the deck. So this would be something you would already be playing. But if you are looking at Enneacraft as a whole, this might not be something that you want to explore, but it's definitely option-y kind of stuff. I don't know, man. You got so much cool room to explore in the premise of this space. Like, it's actually kind of beautiful. Then we have the guard dog. Oh, this one's really, really cool. So the guard dog says, flip, your opponent cannot special summon for the rest of this turn. Now, you're probably asking yourself, okay, so they can't special summon on our turn. That is a correct statement. And I can understand that. The cool thing that Mimighoul was using this for was they were basically using this to flip during the opponent's turn, and it would basically just end the opponent's turn because you've now set up this condition on your opponent where they just simply cannot play the game. Floodgate-esque conditional effects like this are very, very good. Now, obviously, there is conditions with this. It is going to be a little bit harder to do. If you are playing something like Mimighoul, like a hybrid build, then you could pull this off a lot easier. But I think on the base floor, it's going to be a little bit harder to do. But it's a flip, it's a floodgate. There is some consideration to it. And then the Shallow Grave. This is one of the ones that I really personally liked because Shallow Grave is that stupid old floodgate. Well, it's not even floodgate. It's that stupid old Monster Reborn card that allows you to Monster Reborn something from the graveyard face down. But the caveat is your opponent also has to have something in their graveyard, or you're going to not be able to do anything with this. So it's kind of your trade-off. If you're playing something like Empty Jar with this, it does get you the free revive back onto the field, but you have to be aware that you have to be able to have that interaction. But if a jar resolves, like 99% of the time, your opponent's probably going to have a monster in their graveyard, and you'll be able to get your value, which, I mean, okay, we'll go ahead and take that. You got to remember, you're playing a deck that, I mean, if you do feed off, depending on the build, this card might actually have more value. But if it doesn't have the most explosive value, okay. Searchlight Man. Now, you're probably like, whoa, Searchlight Man. So, this is just says flip. Your opponent cannot set for flip, oh my gosh. Your opponent cannot set or flip face down any cards for the rest of this turn. So this is, I guess this is technically the card that you play for the mirror match. You would basically be using this to paralyze the opponent and not allow them the chance to set any cards. Now remember, this itself is this is a flip monster, right? Yeah, this thing is a flip monster. So you do have to effectively find the same way to get this thing flipped up during the opponent's turn. But we once again come back to the case in point of what we were talking about previously with the guard dog. If there is a way for you to incorporate this and get that action flipped face up, you can do some pretty hilarious things with that. And then we have Whirlwind Weasel. I don't know why people were so excited for this. Whirlwind Weasel was one of the first things I heard people go, oh, so your opponent cannot activate any spells or traps for the rest of this turn. But once again, this one's a little bit more usable in the sense of what we want to do with this, because we can flip this up, lock our opponent if they've got massive back row, and they just can't do anything at that point. But your problem here is you have to be playing against a back row deck in order for you to, maximize the value on this. If they're not playing a back row deck, well, there's not really much that you're going to be able to do with this. It's a cute idea on a cute premise. Gotta give them a little bit of credit. I know how many people were excited to see Whirlwind Weasel having a chance to do well. I mean, technically, if you do play against something like Labyrinth, this card is technically just a free auto blowout. And they're just like, oh, can't play the game? Sure. And then we have the Deuce X Crawler. Oh boy. So when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets this face down card, we can change this card to face up defense position to negate that activation, and you destroy that card. After this card is flipped face up while it is in a monster zone, negate all monster effects activated on your opponent's field. And if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effects, you can add from your deck to your hand a level 9 monster with a different attribute and type from this card. Now, your opponent has to target this face down to trigger this stupid thing into its mad cycle, which, card does seem like it has a lot of cool potential. I will give it that. But you got to remember, it's costly, and that's okay. So those are just some cool little ideas that I saw players looking at with Enneacraft, wanting to test out. So please, leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.